The small girl pulled on his jacket and said, "Excuse me, mister." Elon looked down and saw a small person with wide brown eyes staring up at him. The child's expression was a bizarre combination of optimism and terror. Yet her curly hair bounced around her face as she spoke, and she couldn't have been older than 8 years old. She inquired in a soft voice that shook slightly, "Are you my dad?" What kind of question was that? Elon was surprised. This was certainly not one of the things he thought he would hear that day. He hesitated, not knowing how to reply. Although Elon had children of his own, this girl was not one of them. He bent down so that he was at her height and looked her in the eyes. He said, in a gentle voice, "I am not your father, but what makes you think that I am?" The small girl looked down at her shoes and paused for a moment. She appeared as though she wanted to flee, but something prevented her from moving. She muttered, "Ma told me that one day my dad would come back for me." Her words were heavy with sadness and bewilderment lingering in the air. "When I saw you, I thought that you might be the one." Elon experienced an unusual sensation in his heart. This question was not asked at random. He was unaware of the specific details, but he could tell that something more serious was happening here. Elon looked around and questioned, "Where is your mom?" The girl indicated a little coffee shop that was located on the other side of the street. Elon noticed a woman sitting alone inside. She looked exhausted, and her hands were clutching a cup of coffee as if it were the only thing holding her together. What was happening here? Elon had a curious need to learn more, but he didn't want to frighten the girl. He extended his hand and said, "What do you think about going to talk to your mom together?" The girl stared at his hand for a while before she gradually reached out and took it. The next thing he would find out would alter everything. Elon and the small girl walked into the coffee shop, and the woman who was there looked up. She immediately recognized Elon Musk when she saw him, and her eyes opened. After all, he is one of the most famous individuals in the world. However, she did not appear to be excited to see him. She appeared to be anxious. The girl ran up to the mother and shouted, "Mom, I found Dad." The woman laid her cup down, her face losing its color and her hands shaking. The woman spoke softly, her voice heavy with grief. "Sweetheart, he is not your father," she whispered. Elon could sense that she was in anguish just by looking at her eyes. What was happening? He took a seat at the table and attempted to understand everything. He spoke softly. "I apologize for the misunderstanding. However, your daughter appears to believe that I am her father." The woman let out a sigh, covered her face with her hands for a bit, and then looked back up at him. She muttered, "I am so sorry. It's been difficult, and I haven't been able to provide her with the answers she requires. We're experiencing a challenging period at the moment." Elon got a sinking feeling in his heart. Although he was not yet aware of all the specifics, it was obvious that this family was facing difficulties. The small girl in her innocence had become attached to the concept that her father was someone like Elon Musk, someone who could take away all of her sorrow. But what was her reason for doing this? The mother was withholding certain information, which meant that the story was not yet complete. However, Elon did not apply pressure. He leaned forward a little bit instead, and his eyes were gentle. "Can I do anything to help?" The mother seemed shocked. That was something she didn't see coming. This was something she never anticipated. But there he was, Elon Musk, sitting across from her and asking whether he could be of assistance. It was a brief period of silence. The small girl was fidgeting in her seat, her eyes moving back and forth between her mom and Elon. It seemed like her mother was having a hard time figuring out what to say. At last, she let out a sigh and turned her weary gaze toward Elon. "It's been difficult. Very difficult. We've been having a hard time making ends meet. I lost my job a few months ago. And I haven't been able to find another one since then," she said, looking down in shame. "I never intended for any of this to happen. My daughter has been asking about her father for years, and I didn't have the heart to tell her the truth." The fact is, that word was heavy in the air. Elon could sense how heavy it was. The small girl was unfamiliar with her father, and her mother was unsure on how to explain the truth of their circumstances. So when the girl saw Elon, she must have seen a man who could repair everything, a man who gave her hope. Elon sat back in his chair and pondered. What options does he have? He was accustomed to addressing large difficulties. However, this was not the same. This was a personal matter. The woman broke the stillness by saying, "I'm sorry. I understand that it was inappropriate for her to ask you that. We don't actually need anything from you. I didn't know how to stop her from dreaming." Oh, she did not comprehend how much her comments hurt. Elon saw the little girl looking at him with her hopeful eyes, and he realized that he couldn't simply turn his back on her. Elon sat there feeling the weight of the tiny girl's look. He was unable to overlook the hope that was present in her eyes. Her mother had talked about their difficulties, but she had not revealed everything. He had a feeling that this was not just a matter of money, it was a matter of survival. Elon started speaking carefully, saying, "I know that I shouldn't be saying this. I have witnessed many people in difficult situations, and sometimes all they need is a little assistance to get back on their feet. He stopped for a moment to think of the perfect words. He didn't want to make it seem like he was giving them a handout, but it was obvious that the youngster and her mother were in a difficult situation. As I could assist you, even if it's just a little bit. Maybe I could help you find a job or something else to get you back on your feet. The woman's expression became more gentle, but she swiftly shook her head. No, I can't accept that. I've been trying to manage on my own. We'll figure something out. I don't want any handouts. She said her pride was strong, but so was her desperation. Elon could see it. Before he could respond, the little girl spoke up, her voice trembling. Please, Mom, maybe we could try just this once. I'm sick of being scared all the time. Like, her words were like a punch to the gut, raw and honest. The mother's face crumpled. She tried to hold back tears, but it was clear that she was fighting a battle she couldn't win alone. Finally, she looked at Elon, her eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and shame. I don't want to be a burden, she said softly. Elon answered, you're not, in a strong tone. Everyone needs help sometimes. He moved closer and looked at her with kind eyes. Let me help you not just with money, but with a fresh start. The mother looked at her daughter, who was now holding her breath, waiting for her mom to respond. The mother said, so quietly that it was almost impossible to hear, I don't want to let her down anymore. Elon nodded. In that case, let's work together to come up with a plan. Elon recognized that the little girl was brave and that her mother was strong. He felt that it was the right thing to do, but more importantly, it felt like it was meant to happen. Over the next few days, he made plans to help the mother and daughter. He didn't want to just throw money at the problem. He wanted to offer real, lasting support. He contacted some of his connections and arranged for the mother to interview for a job that matched her skills. He also set up a meeting with a financial advisor to help them plan their future. When he saw them again, the little girl was pleased, but her mother still seemed unsure. Could she truly trust him? Could she believe that their lives were going to change? As they sat down to talk, the woman said, I don't want to get my hopes up. She had been disappointed too many times in the past. Life had taught her that nothing good comes without a price, and she was worried about what this help may cost her. Elon remarked softly, there's nothing hidden here. I simply want to see you both succeed. You are powerful. You have already come this far by yourself. I'm only opening a door. You are the person who will go through it. The woman remained silent for a time. Then she nodded slowly. I'll give it a try, she murmured. But I don't want to rely on anyone. I have to do this for us. Elon smiled and said, I wouldn't want it any other way. The little girl was excited as she listened to them chat. She didn't understand what they were saying, but she understood something important was going on. For the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful that things could improve, that her mother might not feel sad or exhausted anymore. However, despite her growing hope, the mother was unable to get rid of the worry that was in her heart. She had witnessed how quickly life could change, how everything could be taken away from you when you least expected it. And was it possible to really believe in a new beginning? After a few weeks, the woman started her new job. At first, it was difficult to get used to her new responsibilities and to find time to spend with her daughter. However, she felt something different now, a sense of purpose that she had not felt in a long time. She was proud of herself. Every day she went to work, she knew she was building something better for her daughter's future. Elon would occasionally check in on them, but not as a billionaire trying to solve their problems. He would check in as a friend. The little girl started to open up to him, and even though she had once thought he might be her dad, she now saw him as something different. He wasn't family by blood, but he had become an important part of their lives. While they were sitting in the park one day, the little girl asked Elon a question that surprised him. Why did you help us? Her innocence cut through the noise. Elon took a moment to reflect. Because I saw something in you, he answered honestly, you reminded me that sometimes the people who seem the smallest may be the strongest. I wanted to help you because you deserve the opportunity to succeed. The little girl grinned, her eyes shining with the type of happiness that only comes after knowing grief. She looked at her mom, who was laughing more these days, and she knew their lives had changed for the better. A year later, the little girl and her mother were doing well. The challenges they had faced were still part of their story, but they were now part of a past that had made them stronger. The mother was doing well at her job, and the little girl had discovered confidence she never knew she had. Elon stayed in touch. Even though his life was busy with his projects and businesses, he never forgot about the family he had helped. Every time he saw the little girl's bright smile or heard her laugh, he was reminded that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could have the biggest impact. While they were having dinner together one evening, the little girl turned to Elon and said, you may not be my dad, but you are my hero. Elon grinned, his heart feeling full. He felt that her words contained a profound truth that he would keep with him for the rest of his life. He responded in a gentle tone, I am just happy that I was able to be here for you when you needed me. And with that, their new chapter had truly begun, a chapter full of hope, laughter, and the knowledge that they had faced the worst and come out stronger. The mother, who had once been weighed down by the challenges of life, now stood taller. She walked with more confidence and smiled more often. The burden that had once kept her down was lifting. Like, the little girl knew that life would never be perfect, but for the first time, she believed it could be good. The girl was also doing well in her new surroundings. She was attending school on a regular basis, making new friends, and her laughter could be heard throughout their small but comfortable apartment. Their lives were changing. Elon, despite being busy with his own life, continued to check in on them. He was not just a distant benefactor, he had developed a deep concern for their well-being. He's in the quiet moments when he was not managing companies or launching rockets. He found himself thinking about them. They had become a part of his life as well. One evening, Elon invited them to a special event at SpaceX where they would be able to see a rocket launch. For the little girl, it was a dream come true. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she stood next to Elon, watching the massive rocket prepare to soar into the sky. I can't believe I'm really here, she exclaimed, bouncing on her toes. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and Elon found himself smiling more than he had in days. He hadn't felt this connected to people in a long time. The mother stood a little behind, still in awe of how much their lives had changed. She had never imagined that they would be here, standing next to one of the most influential men in the world, watching history in the making. It felt surreal, like a dream she's afraid to wake up from. Elon leaned down to the small girl's level as the countdown began. Are you ready? He said. He asked, his voice filled with warmth. She nodded eagerly, her eyes glued to the rocket. I'm ready. The roar of the engines filled the air, and the ground beneath them trembled as the rocket lifted off. The girl's face lit up in awe, her mouth open in amazement. It was a moment she would never forget, one that would stay with her for the rest of her life. As the rocket disappeared into the sky, Elon looked over at the mother. Oh, she was smiling, but there were tears in her eyes. She caught his gaze and mouthed the words, thank you. Elon nodded, understanding the depth of her gratitude. He didn't need to say anything. The look in her eyes said it all. As the weeks turned into months, the mother continued to improve in her new job. She had gone from struggling to pay her bills to managing her finances with ease. She was even saving for her daughter's future, something she had once thought impossible. One afternoon, Elon came over for tea. The mother sat down with a sense of peace that she had not felt before. She looked across the table at Elon, her expression thoughtful. This time, she spoke with confidence. I wanted to tell you something, she said, her voice steady. Elon raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What is it? She paused to take a long breath before continuing. I've been doing a lot of thinking about everything that's happened recently, and I've come to a realization. For a long time, I believed that we were stuck and that no matter how hard I worked, we would not be able to make any progress. But then you entered our life, and everything was turned upside down. Elon shook his head a little. I didn't do much, he remarked in a humble way. You did the hard job. The mother smiled, but her eyes were serious. No, you don't understand. It wasn't only the assistance you provided us. You had faith in us. You demonstrated to me that it is acceptable to ask for assistance and to rely on another person for a period of time until we are able to be independent once more. That meant more than you know. Elon was greatly affected by her remarks. He had dedicated his life to addressing major problems, but this was different. This was not about technology or invention. It was about human connection. In that moment, he understood exactly how powerful that could be. The small girl, who was now calmly drawing at the table, looked up and smiled. And now we're like family, right? Elon smiled, feeling a rush of emotion. Yes, he said softly. We're like family. Word of Elon's unexpected act of kindness spread quietly. It wasn't a headline-grabbing story, nor did Elon want it to be, but for those who knew, it became an example of how even the smallest acts of compassion could change lives in ways that money couldn't. Elon himself found that this experience changed him too. He began to see his success differently, not just in terms of what he could create, but in how he could make a direct impact on the lives of others. It wasn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it was about being there for people when they needed it most. Like for the mother and her daughter, life had taken on a new meaning. They were no longer defined by their hardships, but by the strength they had found within themselves and the unexpected friend who had helped them see it. One evening, as they sat together in their apartment, the little girl looked up at her mother and asked, "Do you think we'll see Mr. Elon again?" The mother smiled kindly as she brushed her daughter's hair away from her face. "I think so," she said in a quiet voice. "He's a part of our lives now, just like we're a part of his." They were right. Elon never forgot them, and they never forgot him. Their story, while surprising, had created a connection that was deeper than the situation they were in. It served as a reminder that even in a world full of challenges, there is always room for kindness, hope, and new beginnings. This was just the beginning of a new chapter for all of them, a chapter in which hope would continue to grow, laughter would fill the air, and they would know that they could always rely on one another. And in that, they had discovered their true strength. Their story, while surprising, had created a connection that was deeper than the situation they were in. It served as a reminder that even in a world full of challenges, there is always room for kindness, hope, and new beginnings. This was just the beginning of a new chapter for all of them, a chapter in which hope would continue to grow, laughter would fill the air, and they would know that they could always rely on one another. And in that, they had discovered their true strength. Thank you for watching this video and being part of this journey. Stories like these remind us of the incredible power of compassion, resilience, and human connection. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more inspiring and thought-provoking tales, please don't forget to subscribe to Velvet Sovereigns, where we bring you the best stories of hope, transformation, and kindness. Stay tuned for even better and more captivating stories, and together, let's keep the spirit of humanity alive. See you in the next one.